What if I told you the US dollar could collapse, just like Venezuela's, Zimbabwe's, or even the Roman Empire's currency? Too dramatic? Well, so was every other financial collapse, right before it happened. The dollar is the world's reserve currency, right? It's the backbone of global trade. But so was the British pound, until it wasn't. Right now, the US national debt is over $36 trillion and growing fast. The government keeps printing money, hoping to outrun the consequences. But history has proven one thing. No country can print its way to prosperity. Eventually, the system breaks. We've seen it before. Currencies that once seemed invincible, reduced to worthless paper. Economies collapsing overnight. Savings wiped out. The question is, could it happen to the US? Some experts warn that we're already past the point of no return. Others say the dollar is too big to fail. But one thing is clear, something has to give. In this video, we'll break down the warning signs, what history tells us about debt-driven collapses, and, most importantly, what it means for your money. Because if history is any guide, nothing lasts forever. Every empire thinks its money will last forever, until history proves them wrong. The Weimar Republic? They printed so much money, people needed a wheelbarrow just to buy bread. Zimbabwe? Their money was worth less than the paper it was printed on. Rome? They devalued their currency so badly, their entire economy collapsed from the inside. The pattern is always the same. Too much debt. Too much money printing. Too much arrogance. The US is already checking all the boxes. So, what about the US? Could it follow the same path? Some economists say no. The dollar is too ingrained in global finance. Others warn that the signs are already here. A national debt now exceeding $36 trillion, a Federal Reserve that keeps printing, and foreign countries actively moving away from the dollar in global trade. If history tells us anything, no empire stays on top forever. If you ask Washington, they'll tell you, relax, the United States can print as much money as it wants. The debt doesn't matter. But let's think about this. If any other country had $36 trillion in debt, their currency would be in freefall, their credit rating destroyed, and the IMF would be knocking on their door like an angry landlord. So why is the United States different? Because for decades, the world has been forced to use dollars for trade. Energy, manufacturing, global debt, it all runs on dollars. Other countries have no choice. Or at least, they didn't. Now, something is changing. Fast. Countries like China, Russia, and even some of America's allies are looking for ways to trade without using dollars. BRICS nations are talking about creating their own currency. Even Saudi Arabia, the country that literally gave us the petrodollar system, is now doing oil deals in Chinese yuan. But here's the kicker. It's not just traditional rivals looking for alternatives. Even US allies, like Canada, Mexico, and the EU, may be rethinking their dependence on the dollar. Why? Because the current administration's aggressive economic power plays are backfiring. Instead of reinforcing alliances, policies like trade restrictions, sanctions, and currency pressures are making longtime partners feel like second-class citizens in a system they helped support. You think Canada and Mexico forgot that they helped create the North American economic powerhouse that fueled US dollar dominance? You think Europe, already suffering from energy shocks and economic slowdowns, is thrilled about Washington's financial chess moves? If you push your allies into a corner, don't be surprised when they start looking for the exits. This isn't just economic gossip. It's the kind of shift that has toppled currencies before. But let's be real. Most Americans aren't thinking about this. We're too busy watching grocery prices climb and pretending that a $6, $7, $8 coffee is normal. The real question is, if the dollar ever does lose its privileged status, what happens next? The moment countries start seriously moving away from the dollar, the fallout will be brutal. First, imports get way more expensive. Gas, food, electronics. Suddenly, everyday Americans feel like they're living in Weimar Germany. Second, US debt becomes a nightmare. No one wants to buy treasury bonds. Interest rates skyrocket. Washington either prints more money, causing hyperinflation, or starts slashing spending. Let's rewind to the British Empire. For over a century, the British pound was the global reserve currency. London was the center of global finance, trade, and power. But then came World War II, massive war debts, and an economic downturn. By 1944, the US dollar officially replaced the pound as the world's reserve currency. And Britain went from ruling the financial world to begging the US for loans. And here's the thing. When a currency loses dominance, it's not just about prestige, it's about power. The British Empire crumbled, its economy struggled, and life got a whole lot harder for the average Brit. Suddenly, imports were expensive, inflation surged, and the cost of living skyrocketed. Sound familiar? Now, let's talk about today. The US has been flexing its financial muscle for decades, using the dollar as both a tool and a weapon. But the cracks are showing. The moment the world seriously starts moving away from the dollar, things get ugly fast. First, the value of the dollar drops. That means everything imported, gas, food, electronics, gets way more expensive. Inflation, through the roof. Interest rates, brutal. And if you think wages will magically keep up, good luck. Second, US debt becomes a nightmare. Right now, the government can borrow cheaply because demand for dollars is still high. But if the dollar loses its dominance, who's buying up US debt? If investors and foreign governments ditch US Treasury bonds, interest rates skyrocket. The government either prints more money, causing inflation, or starts cutting spending hard. And by cutting spending, I mean slashing social programs, infrastructure, and even military funding. And let's be honest, the pending budget cuts being implemented by DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, headed by none other than the world's richest man, Elon Musk, will look like a gentle spring cleaning compared to what happens when the US actually loses its reserve currency status. Forget debating about funding cuts to NASA or national parks. When the money printer runs dry, it's every program for itself. And the worst part? The average American, who had no say in any of this, is left holding the bag. Savings, devalued, investments, volatile, cost of living, through the roof. Meanwhile, the ultra-rich and major corporations, they'll be fine. They always are. When the system cracks, the people at the top don't get crushed. They pivot. Elon Musk? Yeah, he's not going to feel a pinch. He'll probably be tweeting from his Martian colony, sipping Tesla-branded space coffee, while the rest of us wonder how much longer we can afford eggs. So, if you're still thinking, the dollar is fine, this will never happen, I get it. But history has a way of repeating itself, and every major empire that thought their currency would last forever eventually found out the hard way. The question now isn't if the dollar will lose power, it's how soon, and more importantly, what's the backup plan? So, if the dollar is on borrowed time, what comes next? Because let's be real, money isn't going anywhere. The real question is, who controls it? There are a few possibilities. Some are promising, others, not so much. First, there's gold. Every time a financial crisis hits, someone shouts, we need to go back to the gold standard. And while gold has been money for thousands of years, there's just one small problem. Modern economies don't like limits. Governments love being able to print their way out of a crisis. With gold, That's not an option. Plus, let's be honest, do you really want to be carrying gold bars to buy groceries? And after the dollar collapses, who's really going to trust another so-called gold-backed fiat promise from the US government? You think America's allies will line up to peg their currencies to a new gold-backed dollar after Nixon pulled the rug last time? Didn't think so. Unless they believe the next guy won't pull a Nixon. But that's a gamble I wouldn't bet gold on. Next up, Bitcoin and crypto. The idea? A decentralized currency, outside government control, that can't be printed into oblivion. Sounds great, until you remember that most governments hate competition. The US has already cracked down on crypto firms, and let's not forget, China straight up banned Bitcoin mining. If crypto ever gets too powerful, expect more regulations, more restrictions, and maybe even a full-on ban. So while Bitcoin might be part of the solution, it's not looking like a government-approved one anytime soon. Then we have the scariest option, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. This is the one governments love. Instead of physical cash, imagine every single dollar is digital, trackable, and programmable. Governments would know exactly where every cent goes. And if they don't like how you're spending, they could freeze your account with the click of a button. Welcome to the financial dystopia, where your money isn't really your money. And finally, there's the wild card, a new reserve currency backed by multiple countries. Think BRICS, but on steroids. Countries like China, Russia, and even US allies could create their own trade-backed system, completely bypassing the dollar. No single country would control it, but it would mean the US loses its economic superpower status overnight. So, which one will take over? Gold, crypto, government-controlled digital money, a new global currency? One thing is clear. The US won't give up its financial dominance without a fight. Whether it's through trade wars, regulation, or good old-fashioned political pressure, expect a battle for the future of money. And that battle has already started. The battle for the future of money isn't coming. It's already here. Nations are choosing sides. Governments are tightening their grip. And the system we've known for decades, it's shifting beneath our feet. So the real question isn't just who wins. It's where will you stand when the dust settles? The worst time to prepare is after the collapse has started. So, if the dollar is in trouble and the future of money is up for grabs, what can you actually do about it? Because let's be real, most people aren't prepping for financial collapse. They're just trying to make it to payday without crying at the grocery store. First, diversify. And no, that doesn't mean throwing everything into stocks and praying. We're talking hard assets, gold, silver, land. Because when paper money fails, real assets still hold value. Remember, in every financial collapse, the people who survive are the ones holding things the government can't print. Second, keep an eye on decentralized money. Bitcoin might be volatile, but what's worse, crypto price swings or a government-controlled financial system where your money isn't really yours. Third, follow the money. The government will never admit the system is failing until it's too late. But actions speak louder than words. When central banks start hoarding gold, restructuring debt, or quietly shifting policies, that's your warning sign. And last but not least, stay informed. The people who lose the most in a financial crisis are the ones who don't see it coming. They trust the headlines. They believe everything is fine. Meanwhile, the billionaires, they know what's up. And while you're trying to figure out how much longer you can afford rent, they're moving their money, restructuring their wealth, and making sure they never feel a pinch. And if all else fails, well, you can always start saving up for a one-way ticket to Mars. Elon Musk isn't sweating hyperinflation. He'll be selling Tesla-branded space real estate while we're all trying to afford eggs. So, what's the move? Get educated, pay attention, and most importantly, don't assume the system that's been in place for 80 years will last forever. Because if history has one rule, it's this. The moment you think that could never happen, it's already begun. So, where does this all lead? The truth is, no one knows the exact timeline. Could be years, could be decades, but the writing is on the wall. The dollar won't stay on top forever, and when it finally falls, it won't be a smooth transition. What do you think? Is the dollar's dominance truly ending, or is this just another cycle of fear? And more importantly, are you ready for what comes next? Drop a comment below. Let's get the debate going. And if you want to see more deep dives into the financial system, make sure to subscribe. Because trust me, this story is far from over. Oh, and if you're looking for sign-up bonuses for crypto exchanges or real estate investment funds, check out moneysmylife.com. Get your money working smarter before the system changes for good. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.